Good evening, people. 33 years in 31 days. Day 28, looking at 2017. Welcome along, those of you that are here. Drop me a comment. Let me know that you're here and who you are. But welcome everybody that's watching on Twitter / Periscope, Facebook, and YouTube. Only 3 platforms all the time. Laura on Periscope. Good evening. Good to have you with us. Viewer count is slowly going up, so that's nice to see. But welcome along, everybody. Replay viewers, if you're coming later, thank you too for watching. 2017. Now, this is another one of those years. Peter, good evening. Welcome along. Another one of those years. We know we talked yesterday about the fact that suddenly, right towards what is really the dog end or the tail end of my career, I'm suddenly going off and doing things that I never anticipated and had no idea were going to sort of come in my direction. The previous Radio 4 stuff, but then Radio 5 live national television, and then the TISPOL conference and stuff in 2016. And I said to you yesterday, James as well, good evening, watching on YouTube. Excellent. So said to you yesterday that the person that invited me to speak at the TISPOL conference was the General Secretary of TISPOL, and that's Ruth Purdy. Ruth Purdy was a former Assistant Chief Constable at Cheshire, and was on the senior team right at the start when I started making some big waves. And she said, and she'll say quite happily that when, crikey, what are we going to do with him? He's making some real noise. But always very supportive of me. And when she went to TISPOL, she continued to be supportive of me. And she was instrumental, really, because inviting me to speak at the TISPOL conference put me into a spotlight it put me into a spotlight that going on national radio and national TV didn't do, because it gave professional accreditation, if you like, to what I was doing, because somebody within the policing network family, and not just UK based but the European wide, was saying, we're interested in what this officer's got to say and the campaign that he's running. So that was December 2016. January 2017, now the National Roads Policing lead at that time was the Chief Constable of the Gloucestershire Constabulary. It was Suzette Davenport. She's since retired. But she'd always been quite supportive of everything behind the scenes going on as well. But then I get a message from somebody from the Federation in January 2017 that says, our National Police Federation of England and Wales Road Policing Conference is at the Hinkley Island Hotel at the end of January. Will you come and speak? Now, you could look at that and say, really? Less than a month to go and you want me to come and speak? Something's gone wrong somewhere, that you're trying to find people to speak at this late stage. However, I think she said to me later, she said that a gap had appeared. Somebody had been unable to fill. She said, I was looking for somebody to fill a gap, and you were there. Now, whether I'm a first person, top of the list, want to be invited, or whether I was going to be a stocking filler, if you like, didn't matter to me. If I was on a platform speaking to people that are passionate and involved in road safety about Don't Stream and Drive, I was going. So back to the inspector. Sir, got this invite to Police Federation conference, road policing conference. Can I go? Yeah. Don't see a reason why not. It's Police Federation, da-da-da, go on the jobs time. Yep. Within no time at all, I get another request. And the request is for the following day. So for argument's sake, the Police Federation conference delivery was on I think it was on a Monday. It was on the Monday, and the Tuesday somebody else wanted me. Back to the inspector, sir. Got this invite for Tuesday, and they're prepared to put me up the night before because of where it is. So anyway, I went to the police. He agreed both. This was Mr. Bailey, head of professional standards at the time. He agreed to send me to both. He said, "Yep, you can go to both of those without a problem. You can go on job time, and yeah, don't worry about it. Go for it." So I jumped in my car on the Monday, and I was speaking pretty much immediately after the lunch break, I think. So I could set off in the morning and get to Hinckley at Leicester quite easily during the morning. So got myself together, got my bags packed, headed off down the road. Get down to the A5 off the M6, start trundling along the A5, heading towards Leicester and going that way. Because I know that the A5 will just run me straight to Hinckley Island if I just keep going rather than doing the toll road and stuff like that. And I get into Cannock, and I'm sat in a queue of traffic on the A5 at Cannock, and a 14.5 tonner decides he wants to rear end my car. Crunch. I'm fine. It was only a nudge, but stuffed the back end of the car in a bit. Couldn't open the tailgate. All the lights still worked and everything, so that was all fine. So I could still drive it, and it was still, safe and operating, and that wasn't somebody beaming in from Star Trek. It was just my text message sound. So yeah, sorted all that out. Polish driver, bit of a language barrier, but we got it all straight and sorted, and I carried on to the conference. The minute that I got to the conference, I had to ring work. And I said, "Not entirely sure whether this is a PVA. A PVA is a police vehicle accident." So I spoke to the inspector in the control room and said, "I'm telling you, because I haven't reported it to Staffordshire Police at Cannock." I said, "I've just exchanged details and carried on." I said, "But I'm in my own car, on police business, going to a police appointment." I said, "It might be considered a police vehicle accident." It turned out they decided it wasn't. But anyway, got on the phone, got all that sorted out, met the people, got everything straight, and then first session in the afternoon, bang, Sergeant Houston Smith, Cheshire Police, thank you very much. In fact, I think I've got some photographs. Let me just jump into my... Oh, that's full screen. Why is that full screen? Go small. Thank you. Let's just double check. I'm not sure if I've got some photographs. So just entertain yourselves just for a moment, because I was so slow at getting everything sorted out today that and late getting myself straight to go that it never even crossed my mind about photographs. So we'll have that. We'll have that and that. We might have to do some messing with these because they might not come up in the right order. We'll have that, and we'll have that, and we'll have that. There we go. Let's open those. And then I've got to do that and hide that sidebar, and you're all being exceptionally patient, and just do that, and bingo, here we go, boom, there. Police Federation Roads Policing Conference 2017. There I am, stood telling the Police Federation and fellow road safety professionals and police officers and the press and all sorts from around the country about don't stream and drive and the dangers. And the one thing that was really obvious, every time I spoke about don't stream and drive, people went, "Really? I had no idea that would be such a problem. I had no idea that that was a thing. Oh my gosh. It was so unknown. It was something that people didn't know about. And so there I am, putting it out there, and it was fantastic. So I've had a crash in the car, get to the conference, deliver the presentation, and then say, love to stay, but I can't. I've got to drive on. Where was I going? Well, the other email that I'd had was from, I think he was the deputy chief constable, might have been the assistant chief constable, but his name was Phil Kay, and he was from Leicestershire, I think. I think he was one of Simon Cole's team. Might be wrong on that, so don't hold me to account. But he'd invited me down to somewhere, another place that is a well-known name within policing circles, and that's Sunningdale. He invited me down to Sunningdale to deliver to who? To deliver to the senior command course delegates. Now, the senior command course in the police is the course that chief superintendents take in order to be considered for NPCC roles: assistant chief constable, deputy chief constable, and chief con. So it's the final step into that top tier of police management. They have to go on the senior command course, and they have to pass it, which I think is a given, unless they're really rubbish and they don't like it. But I think it's a course that they have to go on. And I don't think for 1 minute that it's easy. So I leave the Police Federation conference at Leicestershire and at Hinckley, and I drive south to get to Sunningdale. And I go to Sunningdale and I find where I am, and they check me in, and I've got a little room all of my own, and I'm fine. And then I wander down to the bar, and Phil Kay is there, introduces himself, buys me a beer, introduces me to a whole bunch of other chief supers that are all sat there, pretty much behaving like PCs would behave on a course. They're all sort of just laughing and joking and pulling each other's legs and being normal, shall we say, which was quite refreshing. So I sat with a bunch of chief supers. They were all getting giddy excited about how many followers they'd got and what they were doing and all the rest of it. And so I had a good evening with those, cleared out, went to bed. The following morning, I got up, didn't really know anybody there. The people had been sat with the night before, fine, but I went down and found the cafeteria and got my breakfast, and I sat just on my own at the big long tables with lots of seats. And I sat down at this thing and I was just eating my breakfast and minding my own business. And a face that I know walks past, stops, looks at me and goes, "What are you doing here?" And that was one of the directors of the National Crime Agency. Thinking, okay, wait a minute. How does Sergeant Jewson Smith, who's worked in custody and also works now in the control room, know one of the directors of the National Crime Agency? Now, I'd already met and spoken a number of times. Emma Pod, welcome along. Good to have you with us. So I'd spoken a number of times with Lynn Owens, who's the Director General of the National Crime Agency. But we initially first met at Chaos and I think in 2014 or 2015, when we went down to the Federation conference in Bournemouth, and we had a pit stop on the way at Surrey Police Headquarters, and she'd invited us to go and see her. Smashing lady, really pleasant, dead pro social media and what we were doing. So again, another contrary message about what I was doing on social being right or wrong. But how did I know this fella? Well, sometime before, I'd been going to church, as I do, and there was a new family, and there was a guy that kept coming into the church, and I'm thinking, he looks really familiar, and I'm not sure where. And then eventually, after several weeks, something clicked, and I went up to him and I said, "I'm going to say 3 letters to you and see if they ring a bell with you." I said, "And if they do, I know who you are." And he looked at me and I said, ESR. And his eyebrows went and said, yes, ESR is Elizabeth Slinger Road. That's the police station that used to work at West Didsbury in Greater Manchester. And I knew him from there. He'd been a sergeant there when I was younger in service. And I knew him from there. And he'd gone into the detective roles, and he'd gone on, and he'd gone to soccer, and then he'd gone into the National Crime Agency. And he was on the senior command course to go to the next level. And he actually lived in the village here. So two people from the same village, miles away from home, and we both sat and had breakfast together, which was lovely. Really nice guy. He left the National Crime Agency and he passed the course. He got a position as Assistant Chief Constable with Cumbria Constabulary. He's now the Deputy Chief Constable of Cumbria, Mark Webster. Smashing, really nice guy, and lovely family. And he's one of his children went to school with my youngest as well. So there's lots of connections there with him. But that was weird. I then went to do the presentation, and it was part of their training day. Big sort of venue with a stage and people who were presenting, and I was one of 4 or 5 people. And one of the people that was presenting was this superintendent or chief superintendent from the Metropolitan Police, who started to make a bit of a name for himself. And was doing quite a lot on social. He'd sort of come out of nowhere, out of left field, but was resonating with people really strongly. Who might that be? Police Commander John Sutherland, who those of you on here I know will know John Sutherland. That was the first time I met John Sutherland. He's a lovely guy. I'm proud to call that fella a friend. In a few years later, he came and spoke at CVM The Gathering, where I've run the social for many years, and he stayed with me and my friends. A friend has got a house down there that we can utilize, so we stayed at the house, and there's a bunch of us there. Really, really nice. But I'm delivering to the senior command course and talking to them about how they can use social media to best effect for them. And even now, just on retirement, Craig Naylor was on that course. He's doing very well for himself, thank you very much. But he sent me a message and said, congratulations on your retirement and all the rest of it. And he said, and those comments from the SCC course are still valid today, worked wonders, and you think people don't forget that kind of stuff. He's ace. So there we go. January was like mega. The interesting thing, when I got back, I got hauled in front of professional standards by Mr. Bailey again. Not because I'd had what I was worrying that it had been a PVA after all, and I was going to get told that I'd not reported it properly and da-di-da-di-da. And he said, I've just seen your expenses for this trip. So, of course, I'd claimed mileage to get my car to Leicester, to get it to Sunnydale, to get it back. So I said, yeah, I said, there's nothing unexpected on there. And he said, there's a forced policy that says that if you're going to be driving a total of over 100 miles, you have to get a pool car or hire a car. Really? I didn't know. A, I've never had to use a pool car. B, I've never had to hire a car. I've always had a Panda, a traffic car, or I've had no need for a car whatsoever. So I said, oh, well, what do you want me to do? He says, well, it's too late now. You'll have to claim it and we'll pay it. But if you get something like that again, please hire a car or get a pool car. Pool cars are like rocking horse poo. You can't get them. So we got into the process of hiring cars then when we needed them. And that sounds expensive, but actually, when you look at the bill that they get, because you're not paying for any insurance, the insurance is covered by the forces policy. So you're just getting a car. They were actually really cheap, and I think they get a good deal. And the beauty of the deal that Cheshire have got with the hire company that they use is that the guy that is responsible for booking all the cars out, he's ex-cops. So we get really nice cars as well. You get a top of the range car, regardless of, if you want a small car, you get a small car, but you get top of the range small car. If you want a big car, you get the top of the range big car. No change in price. You still pay for the basic one, but you get the nicer car, which is always very nice. So if that was a perk in policing, I got it. But there we go. That is what I was doing in January. Let's just have a look at these photographs just for a second, so I make sure that I don't. That's there. That's there. That's there. That's there. That's there. And yeah, we'll leave that one there now. So, where are we now? Now then, the next thing comes along. I've also been doing some private work at this point as well, which is completely chargeable to me and part of a business interest that I had to register with the work. But I was doing some work for a solicitor's company called Irwin Mitchell, who are very pro road safety, and they run regular CPD sessions for police officers where they come and have people presenting to them about road safety issues that are ongoing. So there's lots of learning and development for other police officers and all the rest of it. And there's an ex-police officer from Northumbria that's involved with Irwin Mitchell, and he knew of me and got in touch with me. His name's Phil King, asked me if I would be willing to deliver about Don't Stew and Drive. So I went up and did a few of those, and as a result of that, I think one had already been done, perhaps. But as a result of that, Northumbria police were interested in me coming up and speaking to them about social media as well. So I took the train up to Northumbria, and on this occasion, Northumbria they said, yes, you can go on job time, but Northumbria are picking up the tab. No problem. Northumbria just said, yeah, that's fine. So they paid for my train fare. They paid for my hotel overnight. They did pay. Was it overnight? Yes, it was overnight. Or did it get picked up at the station? No, I think it was a day trip. It was a day trip. But I went first thing in the morning, got to Newcastle. They picked me up in a Panda, drove me out to the Nick, and then I delivered in the afternoon at the end of the conference. Lots of praise about the conference, lots of praise about what I'd said. Feedback at the end of it was mine was the highlight of the day, which is always very nice to hear. I then went back to the train station to get my train home, but my train was cancelled. So instead of going down from Newcastle towards Leeds and then changing at Leeds and coming back across, which is how I'd got up there, I had to go across Newcastle to Carlisle, and then at Carlisle catch the Virgin train all the way down to Crewe. So I did that. While I'm on the train from Carlisle to Crewe, I get a phone call. And the phone call is from somebody who we mentioned in 2014, and that's Laurie Stevens, who's the owner and the founder of the Smile Conference and the Connected Cops and all that kind of stuff. And she said to me, Neil, just giving you a call because I wanted you to know that you've been nominated for a Connected Cops Award for the next Smile Conference. So I said, oh, right. She said, it's the leadership category. Da-di-da-di-da, this, that, and the other. Wanted you to know that you've been nominated. Oh, that's amazing. Thanks very much. What happens now? She says, the next bit is confidential. So I said, all right, what's that? She said, you've won. Pardon? You've won. She said, because, and the theory, she tells everybody that's won that they've won in advance of the event because she likes the person who's won, if at all possible, to be at the event. And she said, you've won. I want you to be there. I will pay. There's a all your meals and everything are at the conference and fine. The conference won't cost you anything, and we've got $500 and odd that we can put towards your accommodation bill. You just need to get there. Okay, bit panicky. Where is it? Long Beach, California. Pardon? Not Birmingham then. Long Beach, California. So I had to keep stum about the fact that I'd won because there were other people that were nominated as well, and what have you. So there's a bit of a secret been let out there, but it's like it's a bit like New Year's honours list. The recipients know well in advance that they've been awarded, but it's not announced till New Year. So I had a dilemma here. Only my passport. I took my passport out in 1989 and it ran out in 1999, and I'd had no passport since. I'd had a family, I had no money, we had no need to go abroad, we had dogs and kids and stuff. We stayed in the UK. That was what we were doing, and as you know, holidays on Scilly and stuff like that. Fantastic. But I had no need for a passport. As this stuff was starting to pick up, I was getting a little bit concerned that sooner or later somebody may say, we'd like you to come out to Germany and speak to us, or will you come to this conference in Abu Dhabi or whatever? And and when is it? 2 weeks away. Oh, yeah, I've not got a passport, and I'll miss out on an opportunity. So I actually, in 2016, I renewed my passport, having been without one for 17 years. So I'd actually got a passport. So what do I do? How the heck am I going to get to Los Angeles? Well, go and speak to Mr. Bailey in Professional Standards. Sir, international award. I've won it. Can't tell anybody yet. But they're going to pay for they're going to pay for the conference. They're going to pay for my accommodation. All I've got to do is get there. Right. How much is it? Well, I've had a look. I can get a flight for about £800. I'll have to have a think about it. Came back to me. Now, because of the way that the police work, and because I was still quite mistrustful, before I went to see him and raised it with him, I booked the time off that I needed as holiday. So that if they then said, no, you can't, and we want to stop you from going, and what have you, I'd already got the time booked off and I'd have been going anyway. So what I did was I did that, and then I went to see him, and he said, I'll have to have a think about it. The decision came back a few days later. No, congratulations and well done and all the rest of it, but it's public money, and we can't be seen to be spending that sort of money on sending somebody to a conference and and collecting your award. Okay. How about then if you meet me halfway? Cost you 400 quid to send me to California and what have you, and anything that comes from that on the basis of Cheshire Police Officer wins International Social Media Leadership Award for Don't Sue and Drive campaign that's now got 75 million people that it's reached. You could do something with that if you wanted to, couldn't you? No, really can't justify it. And now take you back to a conversation that we had the other day for 2015. In 2015, you'll remember that I went to a conference in London on behalf of the Deputy Chief Constable. The ticket for the event in London was 300 odd pounds. The train could have cost about 80 quid, but the travel desk took no notice of everything I told them, booked the same train times that I'd requested, but paid about 200 quid for it. Plus expenses, plus. He spent sort of 600 quid to send me to London for one day. But suddenly, £800 to send me to Los Angeles for an international social media award was out of the question. Meeting me halfway and paying 400 quid was out of the question. I didn't get the logic there and felt very let down by that. So then I had to start looking at how I was going to make this happen. So what I did was I looked at my bank account and I spoke to my wife and I said, really can't justify we've not saved or planned or done anything for this. Can't justify taking that money out of there. Just can't. Not going to be able to go. So what do you do in times like that? What do you do? Well, you stick it on a credit card, or you take out a loan, or if you're lucky, you go and see your mum. And I'm not ashamed to admit it. And she's always been very supportive of my career and everything that I've done. And she said, well, you've got to go. So here's the money, get your ticket booked and go. And I said, okay, on the proviso, I will pay you back. And she said, that's fine, which took me back to being like 12 with a paper round. And I used to order things off her catalogue and pay sort of £2 every week out of my £5 paper round money to pay something off that she got on the catalogue for me. A pair of trainers for basketball or something. But my mum paid for my flight. And so having spent 28 years not travelling abroad, I took the train to London. I stayed overnight in Hounslow, I think it was, at a travel lodge. Went to Heathrow the following morning, and at lunchtime, I was on a big bird flying 11 solid hours to Los Angeles. Got to Los Angeles, got a taxi to Long Beach. Cost me about $60. Wasn't cheap, but get to Long Beach, walk into the hotel, check in, go to my room, chuck my bags down, splash my face with water. The evening reception prior to the event is about to start. Go down, find everybody, walk through the door. Who's the first person I see? Laurie McCann, the coffee cop. Met her in Birmingham the first time. Known her for a while, but met her in Birmingham for the first time. Walked through the door, eye contact, big squeal, runs across the room, throws her arms around me, great big hug. I talked about that with her on Twitter the other day. Best hugs ever. She's fab. And so made to feel at home. I'd been traveling for 24 hours with a bit of sleep in between at Hounslow, but I'd been traveling for 24 hours to get there. And it was like 6 o'clock in the evening, but it was like 4 o'clock in the morning for me. It was bonkers. But there I am in California. That was the most bizarre experience ever. But in California, who do I bump into? Oh, the picture's not showing. Hang on. Who do I bump into? But this fella. I knew he was going. But Harry Tanguy. Why is Harry Tanguy in Los Angeles at the same time? Harry Tanguy, DC ARV Sergeant, or X as he is now, had won the 2016 Twitter Awards. And the winner of the Twitter Awards had the opportunity to go to the next Smile conference and present to them. And that's what he did. So he was staying in the same hotel. He'd gone over. His wife saw it as an opportunity to go as well. So his wife had gone with him. They'd been there a few days beforehand and had been doing some of the touristy things. But great to meet up with Harry in Los Angeles, which was another weird thing. Thousands of miles away from home, but there's a cop from Devon and Cornwall that I know through Twitter, and we get on like a house on fire. Went through all that process. Harry gave his presentation, which was excellent, far better than mine. They did the awards ceremony. I got mine, stayed with all the conference and everything that was going on, which is all excellent. And then the Wednesday is the day that I'm flying home. So I arrive on the Sunday night. I had the Sunday night evening thing. I had the Monday at the conference, and then Monday night out, I went out and had dinner with a lady from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and we sat on the marina and had dinner and chatted about social and police and differences and what have you. And then Tuesday, all day at the conference and the awards. On the Tuesday, I went out for dinner. Who with? I went out for dinner with Mark Marty, who's one of the guys that was on Blab. I said, I'm in California. I've got to see you. And you think California is massive. They are in LA. But LA is huge. You know, his drive to get to me at Long Beach was sort of like nearly 2 hours. But he came, he met me. There was a lady at the conference who's also part of LE.social called Tamrin Olden. If you look up LE.social on Twitter, she does a lot of live videos for them on Twitter. Tamrin, very, very switched on and knows her stuff around social and around how to use social for law enforcement. She was there as well, so Mark knows her as well. Came, picked us both up, took us out to dinner at a fish restaurant. We had dinner, we had a few beers. He drove me back, dropped me off, and he said, I've got to go get home, and off he went. I then went for a walk around the marina, had a couple of beers at one of the bars, and moseyed back and went to bed. Wednesday at the conference was, and this is a long broadcast, told you 2017 was a busy year. On the Wednesday at the conference, it was very much stuff that wasn't really relevant to me. And I'd had contact from Mike Byers. Mike Byers, also from Blab, who's in Los Angeles, knew that I was coming and had said, we'll get you over to Azusa PD. He said, you come over and see us and all this bit. So I said, well, Wednesday's a good day because that's the day I fly home, but I don't fly home till 5 o'clock at night. So he said, we'll pick you up in the morning, bring you over, we'll do lunch, we'll do some stuff, and then we'll get you back to the airport. Okay. So I spoke to Laurie Stevens and said, look, I've got this offer, I can't pass it up, and I'm flying home tonight anyway, and this isn't really relevant to me, so I'm going to say my goodbye. She said, that fully understand. Go for it, Neil. Make the most of it. So I sat in the hotel reception at the Long Beach Hilton, waiting for my ride to take me back to the Azusa PD. Mike had been in touch and said, I'm on duty. I really don't think that I'm going to be able to get there to pick you up, but we'll send one of the interns in a detective's car just to pick you up and run you back, and I'll see you when you get here. Okay. So I'm sat in reception waiting, thinking at some point there's going to be some sort of plain car pulls up and somebody will come looking for me. What pulls up outside? Black and white. Azusa PD down the door. So I know at that point that it's not some plain car that's come to pick me up. It's an officer. But who gets out of the car? Mike Byers. I walk out the door. He sees me, big smile on his face. Never met the fella before in my life. Not once. We've talked online, on live video, on Blab. That's all we've done. Throws his arm around me, biggest hug ever. We greeted one another like old friends, like we'd been friends for years and been separated for 15 years. The most amazing thing. The one thing I'll say is that social media comes for an awful lot of flack for the negativity and the anger and the bitterness and the arguing and stuff that goes on. It's very easy to forget how much good can come from social media as well. How much good can come from it. He came, he picked me up like an old friend. We drove back to Azusa in the black and white. Great shotguns in the middle between us and stuff, and his big computer on the dashboard and all the stuff that they do in America. Got to the Azusa PD, showed me around, introduced me to the chief, gave me handfuls of patches and Azusa PD pens and stuff. Then took me out for lunch and bought me burgers from In and Out, which if you've been to California and you've not had In and Out, you missed out. If you are ever going to California when all this stuff finishes, In and Out is a must. I am not a burger person at all. McDonald's over here won't go near it. Burger King won't go near it. I just don't touch the stuff. But I went out there with him, and it is something else entirely. Superb. Anyway, did that. Then he had a live video that he organised, and he organised a live video to run that me and him would sit on. Then Mark Marty arrived in his uniform, so I had Mark Marty there as well. So I've met up with Mike at the Azusa PD, and he says, "Have you got your best uniform with you?" I said, "Yeah, it's all there in the back." He says, "Let's get it on." So I put the best uniform on. He's in his uniform. We had a photograph in the corridor of the Azusa PD, and then we ran a live video. And on the live video was a guy called Mitch Jackson. Mitch Jackson is a lawyer in Southern California, in Los Angeles, and lovely guy. And Mike said, "I've got a bit of a surprise for you," because he was just doing it with him. He said, "But I've got some other people here to join." And Mitch's like, "Oh, right, who have you got?" Like that. And he turned the camera around, and Mitch was like, "Oh no, wow, this is amazing." So that was wonderful. We did a live video with the three of us and Mitch. So it was a bit like Blab, but in real time and close proximity to one another. Very strange. The guys were absolutely brilliant. Mark had us take a photograph with his black and white from the Montebello Police Department, and so we did all that. They were absolutely go the other way, I think. There we go. Absolutely fascinated with the British police officer's custodian. So they both had to try it on. That's Mike trying it on and having his photograph taken. There's Mark with his, and they needed to get it out of their system, I think. So there we go. We did all that, and then the intern then drove me back to LAX, dropped me off, and I got on a flight and flew home. Got back to I'd left on the when did I leave? Let me think. I left home on the Saturday morning and got the train to London, and I got back here on Tuesday. Got back home Tuesday evening. Massively, not Tuesday evening, Thursday evening. Massively fast turnaround trip, but so worth doing. Came away with the only international social media awards in policing that exist. Very highly regarded in North America. A conference that had also been to the UK. Nothing was ever said about it. Nothing. Not a bean. Nothing. And you think, here's the force that wants to recognize and celebrate excellence, and nobody said a word. I think I got a tweet from Mr. Bailey, said, "Congratulations, Neil, blah, blah, blah." But as far as the organisation, and I got loads of stuff off all my friends and the people that follow me on social, as you'd expect, they support me and are right behind me. But as far as the organisation was concerned, that award that I collected came back to the UK, and it went on my desks, on my drawers, which are right next to my desk in the control room. It's a hot desk. I share it with the other sergeants who take over from me and who I take over from them, but my drawers were just to the side, and I left it there all the time as a reminder to myself that regardless of what people think about me and regardless about what people do or don't say, I know what I've achieved and what I've done, and that's all that matters. And it's come home now. It's in its box up there until I've got a den where I can put stuff. And I think if I'm going to get a den, I need a bigger house. But anyway, there we go. Meeting up with the guys was brilliant. And we are worlds apart in the way that we police, and we're worlds apart geographically. But we share so much in common in the fact that we're part of the blue family, blue light family, and we're brothers in blue. And it's an amazing thing to have never met anybody in person, but to meet them and find that you've got so much in common, and that you get on like a house on fire. Unbelievable. And those of you that know, there's another story with Los Angeles, but that comes in 2020. So I'll talk about that one in 2020. So for now, for this evening at 46 minutes, nearly 47, we're going to call it a day. Those of you that are still here, I am mightily impressed. Ruth, welcome along. I see you're here as well. That is what I'm going to leave you at. I've showed you those pictures. We've talked to everything that happened in 2017. That was a big year. Lots going on. Oddly, I've got day 29 and day 30, and I've got the years 2018 and 2019, and I've got nothing in either of the text boxes. So tomorrow night, I have absolutely no Scooby-Doo of an idea what I'm going to talk about. So I'll have to come up with something. But then that's all for today. So it was a great experience, Peter, and it was an amazing opportunity, and I'm so pleased that I went. And you know what? I transferred 200 quid into my mum's bank account, and when I next spoke to her, I said, "I've put £200 back into your bank account." She said, "Well, what's that for?" So I said, "Well, it's the first bit of money that I'm paying you back, the 800 quid that I owe you." "What have you done that for?" "I don't need the money back. You just have it." So she paid for me to go. The only concession that Cheshire Constabulary made in the whole thing, right towards death, just before I went, was they said, "You can have your annual leave back." I'd taken the Saturday, the Sunday, the Monday, and the Tuesday, 4 early shifts. I'd had to take those off in order to go. And they said, "You can have those back." So I essentially went on job time to a degree, some job time and some my time. But financially, they did nothing, which was really, I found that really disappointing. But hey ho, that's that. Ruth, can we see it in one session? I don't understand what do you mean. What do you mean? Can we see it in what? I've missed when that came in, so I'm not sure what it refers to. Drop me a message, let me know what you mean. But otherwise, that's 2017, and we'll do 2018 tomorrow. Can we see it in one session? The award, right? Well, hang on a second. I'll have to. Oh, this could get confusing. Just let me take my mic. I'll do it now, and then it's done, isn't it? Hang on. Bear with me. Bear with. Put the microphone back on. Put that back on so you can hear me properly. This is currently in its box because I've got nowhere to put it at home, and I don't want it to get damaged and knocked off anywhere. So if I ever do get a den, that's where it'll go. Until then, who knows? Maybe one day I'll get a job somewhere where I've got my own office. I can do it like that. Unlikely. Get the lid off this box, which doesn't want to come off. There it goes. And here it is. Oh, it's like surprise time. There it is. So if I get that in the right place, you see Connected Cops Award, Social Media Leadership 2016, presented to Sergeant Neil Jewson Smith, Cheshire Constabulary, made possible by Laws Communications. And there you go, there it is. One award. It's like two pieces of glass on a plinth. And this is the globe at the top. It's got, can you see that it's the planet? So it's got the Earth and the continents on. But there she is. So no matter how they treated me at the time, and no matter how upset and hurt I was about the way that they treated me at the time about some of that stuff, they can't take that away from me, and they never will. And I did what Amanda Coleman always told me to do a few years back: take the high road and stay on it. That's exactly what I did. So that's it for tonight, 2017. Long enough, nearly an hour. God, I can talk. When I get going about stuff about social, and particularly with all that stuff, I can talk forever. So I hope I've not bored you to death. But thanks for staying, those of you that are here. It's great to know that you've got so much resilience. You're amazing. I will see you tomorrow, where we talk about 2018. Don't know what I'm going to talk about for 2018, so get some questions lined up, because I might have to do a Q&A. But if you've got a question, get it prepped and then throw it at me tomorrow, and we'll do those as well. Otherwise, take care. Have a lovely evening. Thanks for sticking with me, and I'll see you tomorrow. Good night. I've got to put the video on to finish. Where is it? There it is. See you later.